My sister, 34, and I, female 31, were very close. Unfortunately, she passed away from cancer 3 months ago, leaving her husband, my brother-in-law, behind, and her 2 children, my niece, toddler, and nephew, a couple of years older. About 2 weeks ago, my brother-in-law started coming to my home at around 11 a.m. We'd greet each other. I'd ask how he's doing, and all his answers are short. He'd sit on the couch in the living room and just stare like he was waiting for somebody. I ask if he needs anything. All he asks for is a glass of water. I try to open up a dialogue and ask about the kids, but he just refuses to engage. It feels so awkward I have to step out and go into the kitchen or upstairs. I watch him from a distance, and all he does is drink from his glass, then look around or glance ahead. It's become annoying to an extent. I started feeling uncomfortable, and my work kept getting interrupted because I had to wait 3 hours before he finally left. I tried to ask him why he was doing this, and he quickly changed the subject or not answer me. I decided I no longer wanted to open the door for him and let him in, as horrible as it sounds. But really, he and I have never been close, nor have any interest in common, so this is pretty puzzling. He came over on Friday. I looked through the peephole and saw him standing outside. I didn't make a sound. I just stepped away from the door, leaving him ringing the bell till he left. The next day he came over. I did the same thing, but this time he tried to call me, but my phone was upstairs and I didn't call back, so he left. The day after that he comes over again, but still I don't let him in, and he rings the bell and then leaves. The day after that he rang the bell while I was upstairs. I didn't even bother to go near the door and get a look this time. My phone started ringing, but I ignore him. Then I go about my work, and then I receive a call from my mom yelling at me, asking why I didn't open the door for my brother-in-law when he came over to drop off the kids, since he had an emergency and his dad has passed now, and he couldn't see him one more time. I was in utter shock. She then scolded me, saying I did this on purpose, since my brother-in-law complained about how I kept refusing to open the door for him previously. I explained to her why I did that, but she shamed me and called me cruel to treat my sister's husband abhorrently and turn him away when he asked for help. It's been pretty bad between us. The family thinks I'm selfish and cruel for what I did. Not the idiot. Does he know how to send a text message saying, "I have an emergency, need to drop off the kids, please confirm"? You're not his therapist. You tried to talk to him and he refused. Sorry for your loss, but it's not in you to help everyone around you when you're also suffering from your sister's death. You are the idiot. You didn't have to let him in, but you could have at least been an adult to the person grieving over your sister's death and told them the issue you were having. This is making me uncomfortable. Please don't do it again. You could have at least set the boundary. You're too old to be dropping hints. Agree. You are the idiot for not talking to him. All you had to do was communicate to him that his visits were disrupting your work. You could have offered him a time and a day that would work better, or ask him to text you first before coming over. So many other solutions than ignoring him. You made the situation worse by acting childish instead of setting simple boundaries. I'm not sure why others in the thread are missing this, but OP says they weren't close at all. I find it supremely weird that this grown man is dropping off his kids somewhere and then going to his late wife's sister's house, where she lives alone, every day, to sit on her couch. I would be creeped the heck out too. And for everyone saying she needs to be the one to communicate. A, she's grieving too. She tried to talk to him. Perhaps she also doesn't have the words right now. B, it's her home. She has no obligation to let this man wander in all the time. And C, from her mom's reaction, we can see whose back the family has. She's probably been kowtowed into avoiding setting firm boundaries precisely because of pushback like that. I still agree OP needs to handle this now so it stops happening, and I can understand why he'd want to go somewhere comfortable, but OP is not the idiot. My boyfriend, 23, and I, 22, have been dating for 7 months now. He has a girl best friend, we'll call her Ruby, and she hates me a lot. She always makes unnecessary comments about my upbringing. I had a great childhood and was incredibly privileged all my life, and I know that. My boyfriend and his girl best friend were not as fortunate as I was. I completely understand that we are from 2 completely different upbringings. I respect what they've gone through. Ruby constantly brings up the fact that I grew up wealthy. She uses it as a jab against me, even though it's just a fact about my upbringing. Last Friday, I met some of my boyfriend's other childhood friends. Ruby was also present. We were having a good time at a restaurant. My birthday was a few days ago, and I received a Lady Dior bag from my dad and decided to wear the handbag since we were going to a pretty fancy restaurant. As I said, we were having a great time until Ruby brought up the fact that they struggled when they were young. They all told their most difficult moments during that time. I silently listened until Ruby said something about me not knowing what it's like for normal people. I just responded by saying that I had a good childhood and couldn't relate to their experiences. She then said that it must be nice being a spoiled princess and having mommy and daddy taking care of everything. It must be nice to walk around with a $5,000 bag while others have nothing. My mouth was completely open. She was very bold to say that. I looked at my boyfriend thinking he'd say something. He just looked away from me. That made me angry. So I told Ruby that some of us had normal loving parents, unlike you. Not everyone grew up with addicted, crazy parents. She got very upset and walked away crying. My boyfriend glared at me. I ended up leaving after that. My boyfriend messaged me this morning saying that I'm a massive witch for saying something that was still so sensitive for Ruby, that I was the disrespectful one for constantly rubbing my wealth in her face, and that I should apologize. I didn't respond. He's also at fault for letting her insult me for this long. He didn't defend me all those times she said out-of-pocket crap. When she disrespects me, it's completely fine, but as soon as I get disrespectful, it's not funny anymore. I feel guilty that I mentioned her parents, but she should also respect my parents and me. I'm partially wrong for saying that about her parents, but I never shoved my wealth in her face. I had an expensive bag with me. I don't see that as shoving my wealth in her face. I don't feel wrong about that at all. Am I the idiot? I think 7 months was enough time to waste on this guy. You're not compatible, and he'll never have your back. Time to move on and end this headache. Just like they didn't choose to have a crappy childhood, you didn't get a choice to have wealthy parents. What matters is your character now, and if they're not willing to see it because you didn't struggle as they did, this will never work. Yeah, boyfriend lets Ruby say that crap because he agrees with it, but likes getting laid too much, to be honest. Ruby treats you like that because she resents you for being with your boyfriend instead of him and Ruby being together. Tell your boyfriend he's a coward. If he can't learn to stand up for his partner, he could at least have your back when you stand up for yourself. You are the idiot. Sorry, but there's no way I'm taking a $5,000 Dior bag to a dinner with people who couldn't afford one and have vocally spoken about their poor and bad childhoods. Sure, it's OP's property, and it's not OP's fault she grew up with money. However, I find 9 out of 10 rich people are wildly out of touch. Their parents didn't take the time to give them a reality check, so they really can't relate to the average person, even when they try. I, 25 male, live in my family's cottage, which I was given ownership of. The cottage itself is a waterfront property facing a medium-sized lake. My family's been living there for generations, as my great-grandfather originally bought it before passing it down, eventually leading to me. However, my neighbors are a different story, as many of the people I've known since childhood have moved out. The houses that my neighbors once had have been torn down and replaced with designer-style homes. With the construction of these homes came new neighbors and an HOA of which I'm not a member. My problem started with my next-door neighbor, Sophie, female 30, over me fishing. One day after doing some canoe fishing, Sophie approached me on my beach. She started asking if it was legal to fish on the lake, to which I said it was, as long as you pay the $25 per year license. After that, I said I had to go as I had caught some fish and wanted to start processing them for dinner, as it was getting late. After our conversation, I didn't hear from her for over 2 weeks. My encounter with her this time was not in person, but through a letter. In this letter, she wrote about how dangerous fishing is to the environment and why I should stop. In response, I chose to chuck it in my recycling bin and ignore her, as it wasn't worth my time. My most recent encounter was 2 days ago, while I had some friends over. It was in the afternoon when I ran back into the house for some more beers with one of my friends. While grabbing the drinks, we heard a knock at the door. When I answered the door, it was Sophie, and she had another letter. Before handing the letter, she said that she had tried to be diplomatic, and now she had had enough and had a letter from the HOA. Admittedly, I was a bit tipsy at the time, and in response, I laughed and called her stupid for believing the HOA could do anything before closing the door on her. After sobering up, I feel conflicted. On the one hand, I feel that I was justified in my actions because my fishing is none of her business. On the other hand, I feel that I could have dealt with her more tactfully. Am I the idiot? It's kind of ironic, as individuals fishing for their food in a canoe is about as sustainable as it can get. Oh, sorry, Sophie. Let me jump in my car, drive to the store, and buy some fish shipped in from somewhere else. Is that better? I was dying at the thought of OP tooling around his medium-sized lake in that fearsome behemoth of a rapacious commercial fishing vessel, the canoe. You are not the idiot. She's bordering on harassment. Not only that, I'm sure she's lying as the HOA knows you're not a member, which would mean they can't do anything to you. Not only that, an HOA can't control how often and where you fish. This woman is why many Americans refuse to live in an area with an HOA. OP even tossed a nosy neighbor's complaint in the recycling bin. I wonder how many trees the neighbor's willing to kill to harass OP about their environmental impact. OP, you gave her the response she deserved. However, continue to laugh at her because she's ridiculous. Send her a letter telling her that if she comes back onto your property, you'll call the police, have her arrested for trespassing, and report her to the HOA. Then post a sign at the entrance to your property stating, "No trespassing. This means you, Sophie." P.S. I know her HOA cannot do anything about her coming onto his property, but if she's going to issue empty threats, turnabout is fair play. You are the idiot. Do you own the lake? If not, who does? Does that person allow fishing? Maybe apologize for what you did, but tell her to leave you alone. You could have been nicer. You should have just explained the situation. But unfortunately, calling her dumb will breed resentment, and she's probably already looking for ways to make your life harder, so this will snowball. I'm a 19-year-old South Asian female, and in my culture, the groom's family wears the same color as the groom on his wedding day. We have multiple, and the same goes for the bride. My cousin, 24, is getting married, and he has only one brother. My two brothers and I will be matching with him since we were raised as siblings. He's wearing white and gold. His brother, father, and my brothers will all be wearing white suits, and I'll be wearing a white dress. My aunt is also wearing a white dress, but it's a different style to me. The bride and her family will be wearing red at this event, so I won't be similar to them. At work, I showed my friend my dress, and a coworker walked past, looked at the dress picture, and started the whole spiel about not wearing white to other people's weddings. I explained to her that the bride was wearing red, and that even then, we can still wear the same color as the bride, and that it's different in my culture. However, she called me cold-hearted and still insisted I would be taking the bride's spotlight. Trust me, guys, even if a guest shows up in red like the bride, they wouldn't be able to match her unless they purposely spent hundreds on a bridal dress and jewels. I just laughed at her. Still, she and the other people who agree with her are saying I'm cold-hearted to laugh at someone who was trying to save me embarrassment at a wedding. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your coworker is ignorant and seems to believe that everyone on this earth follows the same traditions. How obnoxious to insert Western traditions in a situation where they do not belong. Wear your white dress. Alas, while trying to be socially sensitive on your behalf, your coworker was being culturally insensitive. You are more familiar with the rules for this wedding, so don't worry about their accidentally bad advice. If they can't learn from their mistakes, laughing at them is fine. It drives me insane when people won't accept a 4-second explanation. Yeah, weddings aren't like that in my culture. It's totally different. The next sentence out of a coworker's mouth should just be complimenting the outfit. She was a know-it-all without checking the customs of the people going to the wedding. I, 24 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 23, for 4 years. College sweethearts. I'm an atheist, raised in an atheist family. She was raised Catholic and has wavered in her degree of faith over the years. When I met her, she was open that she was culturally Catholic, prays to the saints before an exam or to find something lost, volunteered at a local church in our college town as a way to meet people rather than out of any vocational call, keeps Lent, eats fish on Fridays, etc. About 2 years ago, a series of traumatic life experiences led her to embrace her religion further. I fully respect the practice of her faith, even if I don't share it. Last summer, we were on holiday with my family, and my girlfriend mentioned that she wanted to find a church in the area so she could attend Mass on Sunday. She planned to go by herself to the earliest possible service so that she could be back before the rest of us woke up and would not interrupt the day. My sister, 27, fussed about this, saying it would detract from her planned itinerary for the day, and that my girlfriend was trying to shove her religion down their throats, that she had chosen to be more religious on this holiday to be difficult. It was all obviously fake and pretty upsetting for my girlfriend because she had rediscovered her religion. My sister's planning her wedding next year around Easter and is set on having it at a church, even though we are an atheist family. My girlfriend had privately mentioned to me that she finds this weird. Imagine if I wanted to get married at the mosque, but has said nothing to my sister to keep the peace. However, after my sister made a joke about my girlfriend observing Lent during the wedding, some stupid comment about saving money by just serving her bread and water instead of a meal, I wound up telling her that she was a hypocrite for insisting on a wedding venue that belonged to a community that she so incessantly makes fun of and looks down on. Obviously, I'm not saying that Christians are oppressed or anything. The opposite in most places around the world, but this is something my girlfriend cares about, and my sister's never respected that. I would almost accept it if my sister disagreed with it for any moral reason. With Catholicism, there's plenty, but she just seems to find it cringy. The entire family has said that I've been unspeakably rude for criticizing my sister's wedding plans and calling her a hypocrite, and my sister's been furious with me for the last week. She's threatened to uninvite me from the wedding. I think I was standing up for my girlfriend. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I don't have anything to add that you haven't already said. You're right, and your sister's awful. She openly mocks the faith, but wants to take advantage of the system. It's weird. Your sister maybe hasn't connected that your comments were in defense of your girlfriend. I think your sister may have a problem finding a church to be married in. Most priests, pastors, or ministers want to meet with the couple before getting married and talk about how faith plays a role in at least the ceremony. I have heard about couples being turned down for using churches as a venue or backdrop. The church personnel will also find it as hypocritical as you do. Unless she lies and puts on a face to get the venue she wants, in which case I would call her out on that. But in any case, you are not the idiot. I'm curious how rude they considered your sister's behavior last summer after your girlfriend indicated she planned to attend the least intrusive church service possible and be back before everyone else was even up, or how rude they thought her joke about serving your girlfriend bread and water rather than a meal. Honestly, I admire your restraint so far, and in not cheerily offering your sister to make a nice public social media post about why she's uninvited you from her hypocritical wedding, if she does.